So should we check the sound before you do? Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, I will. And I'm just checking on Facebook. I don't see it on Facebook. Was it on a special page or just your Suzette? You got it? Great. Okay. 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 I do. I I don't see it yet on my Facebook. So if you want to send me the link in Messenger, we could be on different timelines, which is what I'll talk about today. Okay, well, we'll do that later. Okay. So, welcome everybody. I am really happy to be here with Suzette, especially on Awakened Souls. That's a very powerful name. And where did I begin on my spiritual journey? Okay. There's there's a time of early childhood where I was very wise for my age and giving lots of guidance to my parents on my father on long drives and my mother as she would just be going over her life. I can remember lots of times of giving counsel. And I remember a lot of crying, though, of why am I here? And I was very upset with Christ. I love Jesus and Christ, if however we're looking at the names and the way that's a whole nother story. But I would cry in my room asking, why am I here? Why did I have to come back? And I was very upset. So most of my early childhood was just very kind of like bummed out of being here. And at 9, I had a brain injury, a near death experience. And that near death experience, it gave me like a reboot. Um, because when I came out of that, I was like, I knew why I was here. I had full check in on, what the goal was. I found a book called Heal Your Body, um, and a Carolyn Mace book. And I felt like, okay, there's people on the planet who know what's going on. I'm okay, and I was very dedicated that I'm going to be helping people. And so I studied a lot of energy medicine in those types of books that I could find all through my 10 to my teens, and I yeah, and I went to college for occupational therapy. I was gonna do doctor and switch to occupational therapy because I didn't want to stay as long. So I tried to find a shorter program that I could still help people. And I 9/11 happened when I was in college, and I was already helping a lot of people. They would come to my house for counsel or for art. And when 9/11 happened, it was definitely like a really great wake up because I had my first vision. I had people over and doing art and just kind of processing the experience. And I had a vision of when I was walking down my hallway of a version of myself, Tibetan version of myself, levitating on a blank white canvas that I was going to do my first painting. And so that stirred a lot even more because I wasn't really satisfied in the university. I was always kind of the oddball, raising my hand saying, well, this doesn't really seem right that you want to do surgery when it just seems that all that they need to do is start meditating and getting connected with why they're not at ease. So I started a non for profit called Find Ease while I was in the university to help other students who were kind of like in the same boat as me with wanting to help in other ways with art. And I found a Reiki school down the street and did all the trainings with Reiki. So I wanted to introduce Reiki to the university students, and that set the tone of like, okay, there's definitely going to be another path when I get out of college. Um, yes, yeah. So when I, this is a fun story. So in college, I there was a gentleman that would drive a old truck with proverbs painted all over it and all sorts of junk tied onto it, and he had six dogs and a cat living in the back, and his name was Monroe Lee. And I was sitting on my front porch talking to my mom on a phone, cordless phone, kind of landline, which seems kind of ancient, and I had a long, you know, front path to a busy road. So it was, it wasn't like someone could just easily see me. Well, here comes Monroe Lee with his truck, and I just said the day before I wanted to meet that guy. Like seems pretty cool. Um, and he stops his truck, maybe like an acre in front of me, and he points to me and beckons me to come. So I walk down and say hi. I wanted to meet you. I just saw your truck yesterday and said I wanted to meet you. And he said, I I need to work with you. I build churches. So he lived in his truck with his six dogs and his cat, and he was an architect for churches, um, and trained by an architect who took him under his wing as a younger lad, um, Indian, dark skinned Indian with a big cowboy hat. Anyways, I weave him in because these are the type of characters that I've been dealing with all my life as very sacred teachers that come in out of the ether, um, in a very, I call them seeds, because I know that they're planted in front of me for a reason. They're coming, yeah. So Monroe Lee was one of my teachers that came forth in that way, and I jumped forward to, I'm graduating master's program in occupational therapy, and the night before I'm uh, graduation, I'm meditating in my room, and I hear, you're going to tell your parents when they come tomorrow that you're not going to do occupational therapy. You're going to open up a healing center and just work for not for profit and bring people in who need assistance with yoga and Reiki and things like that. So I said, all right, and that's how I kind of still am. I still communicate with consciousness in that way in my meditations. And so when my parents got there, Monroe Lee pulled up as well, in front of my house. My parents and Roly in a silver suit, this shiny silver suit that you don't really think would ever exist. Okay, I have lots of these stories. Okay, so anywho, they come and I share with the three of them that I'm not going to be doing occupational therapy, what I just told you. And my father said, "Yay, you figured it out." And he said, "Well, I'll give you the house in Ozona and it was 505 Orange Street, which 505 is SOS, so it was the Help House. And he said, I'll give you the house and you can, run your healing arts center out of there. So that's kind of how I started with opening centers. It went from one center to another center. And it's been centers ever since, with slight gaps in time, um, of, going off and searching through the plane of existence, traveling in my car like he did and you do, kind of finding the way, like, what's next? What's the bigger messages that want to be shown? So, yeah. What's phlebotomy? What is? Oh, interesting. There's something to that. No, I definitely, like I said, in between stages, I would want to explore and push the envelope and push the barriers to figure out like what else is going on here. I definitely had a lot of partying and sex, drugs, and rock and roll, um, to also push into directions because I was just seeking, right? Always seeking. So seeking in the spiritual realm and then seeking in like the darker and finding, really, I think that's what we're here for, is to seek and neutralize these polarities and these opposites through, all the different experiences. We keep like finding self. Um, you know, yeah, yeah. Um, it brings up a, a thought, a story that also feels appropriate. So when I was opened up the first center, actually it's very interesting. That leads to another story. I opened up the first center and then opened up three centers in a row down that street. So it was more about clearing a ley line, a song line, dragon line. And when I opened up the fourth center in a row, I got a call from another seed mentor who, I was laying on my couch and I had just opened up the fourth center with this gentleman Joseph, who had just reopened the Glastonbury Chalice Wells in Glastonbury, England, and he had come back to the States and found me at a coffee shop and said I looked interesting, and I told him, "Oh, cool! I just looked at this building I want to rent because I want to open up a bigger center." He said, "Well, take me to it." So within like 10 minutes, I took this gentleman over to this fourth center location that would make a bigger location for, um, the yoga and the art and the juicing and all that. And I, um, get to, okay, wait, just something just started echoing. Okay, so I am laying on my couch after opening this at the 505 Orange Street house, and I get a phone call on a fax line, my father's fax line, and I'm meditating as usual, and I'm asking within, do you want me to answer that? Because I know like it's maybe 10 o'clock at night, the fax line shouldn't be ringing. Sure enough, I pick it up, and it's this guy, and he says, "Are you looking for clarity?" And I said, "Well, I'm always looking for clarity." Sounds like you, Suzette. And I think that's when how you came to me, which is interesting. I'm having a deja vu with you. But I said, looking for clarity. I'm always looking. Who is this? I name a bunch of guys that could be pulling a prank on me, from the center. And he's like, "Look, I'm meditating in the Himalayas, and I get your phone number 3 times, and I come down off the mountain to talk to you. You need to, if you're going to talk to me, you better talk to me." And I'm like, "Oh my God, okay, I'm sorry." And so this led to many conversations with this teacher, and he spoke with my parents, because I wanted my parents to cross check this experience, what was happening. He told me all about Elasa. I hadn't taken on the name Elasa yet, but he told me all about when I would get to this point that I was going to be bringing forth a frequency of love that was needed through Elasa. And anywho, what brings me to the story of Mirage is, as we had these phone calls, he said to me, "Look, are you ready for me to come there and work with you?" And I said, "Sure." He said, "Well, I need you to stop doing marijuana. You're smoking marijuana." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I do have marijuana here." And they said, "I need you fully clear, like nothing. You cannot be working with anything like that." And he actually said, "It's not time because I can just tell you're not ready, and I'll be back." So it's just interesting. You know, when we're ready, the teachers arrive. And ultimately, what I've always shared with you or anybody is, who's the best teacher, right? Within us. Yeah. It was all on one street. So I kept opening up another building because I ended up living at that house he gave me, and I was having difficulty living at the house and having people coming for sessions. So I, got a building across the street, and then I got a second building to get bigger, and then I needed to bring all of that into one because I was running all three at once, and I was looking for a bigger building, which is now, it's in downtown Ozona. Um, it was Ohana Cafe at one time, Consciousness Connection, and this is interesting. Feels like a good, let's keep going with these types of stories because I feel like they have a lot of, this was in my dream with you last night. So I dream the future every night. I am fully awake, lucid with the next day, because again, we have to realize what's really going on here is we are awakening our central channel to understand how the projector of the pineal gland and the reactor of the heart thymus work together to create reality. Um, and so when you awaken lucid in your dream state at night, and you start to be awake in the dream, or when you get up to go pee at 3 or 4, spend some more time laying there, actually just visualizing, talking to consciousness, doing whatever you're going to do, plan your day, see your day happen. You can do all kinds of things, and that's what you will wake up into the next day, because this is, again, is just a shadow typically for most people of what their bigger spacious self. If all of space is true, no time, all space is you, the bigger universal consciousness. This, when you slide in down the central channel, when you're getting up in the day to move around, this is just the mover on the board. This is everything that you are. The night is the real. And when you, yes, and if as you are awakened to the soul that you be and for eternity, the majority that you can really start to get clarity and do more um, purposeful, getting check, doing all your check points of why you're here can be done at night, and then you can walk it in the day or be walked. You will be moved on the Hara line. Your central channel will be moved, and all the other souls who were with you that night will show up. So I see everybody that I was just with that night, and then I can be have more clarity of being present with you and going to the next level of our check marks, why we truly are here together at this time, and be in more joy and more play, because we've already finished up all the duality or opposite game. We're not showing up in drama together, we're showing up in purpose together in joy and playfulness. And that is, yeah, and that, well, it's a place to do review of drama, right? It's like your deep meditation is similar to your nighttime, and it's a place of creation, of dropping into the highest blueprint probability of existence that's already happening, because all the futures already happened. So it's you are lining up in frequency so that you can actually occupy your central channel and then live that, and live that with purpose. That's what I'm saying. Like at night and day, the whole thing, there's no time. You are in purpose, in presence. You can't be in presence if you're still trying to do the check marks and still trying to, you know, clear your opposites or clear your stories, or, clear your karma or clear your, misunderstandings. Hmm. Right. Because you've stepped in, you are soul, you know your soul, you've stepped into that higher alignment. And you know, in the highest alignment, everything's already there. And in the highest alignment, whatever you really do desire in the now moments, you're projecting it. It's gonna. Why would you not give yourself what you're actually wanting? And the small self, the small self may still have these like earthly desires that thinks that's going to satisfy the yoke of the soul. When you go to make those desires, the true you is going to give you much better, because that, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you have much better? Well, it's these old vows to poverty, these old vows to the lower world. Now, when you release the lower vows to the lower world, when you release the vows that you took to poverty, because the poverty is misunderstood, meaning in the lower world, you wouldn't want to hang on to all these things of gross matter, because you wouldn't be able to get up your central channel to come out the pineal gland to start controlling the higher reality. So you let go of all the things, and you were, in prayer, meditation, other lifetimes, a Tibetan monk, whatever the detail was, a nun, etc. You were trying to find your way up the path to get to all is self, to get to this understanding of higher consciousness. So we have to kind of deep dig and find those places where we made these vows. For the time, they were perfect. But for the now, it's like in this, as soon as we get to heart in presence and we get to the pineal gland and creation of the highest blueprint possible, which again already exists because you're just playing with yourself right now. So as you get up to this higher world, the plane of existence is like a heavenly state where, of course, why would you withhold anything when all it is a stacking of light particles? You're just and you're having the experience, and when you have that experience of like, yeah, worth is key, like, so like I am worthy to now release all of that that I set up in another timeline and rise into this higher experience of presence, to go ahead and have the best, most fun experience that I possibly could by stacking up light particles in my hologram and experiencing a mansion or whatever it is. You're not attached to it, but you're wanting to experience everything possible that you can experience here. And by golly, do it, because that's again the next level of mastery, is to be able to yield and wield and allow through worth anything that you desire to be experienced. Now, if you're going to experience a, what do they call a mansion, I just said, but yet the next day you want to go swim with dolphins, you're not going to cling on to the mansion and be like, I can't leave here because I just created this, which happens with, I notice, on the journey. But if you're willing to let that just be like, yeah, it'll be here if it is or not, or maybe you're at an Airbnb and you're experiencing it that way, and then the next day you go swim with dolphins, then again, you're in this flow of staying present every now moment so that you can, again, go to these higher levels of yielding and wielding the light particles on the green screen, however it is that your heart desires every now moment. So stop, back up for me. Go ahead. Go ahead. I just was saying, if it's not understood, ask any questions, but you mean what you're going to say. Because when you let go, what do? You then use that essence, those light particles, to go ahead and re-project the next scene, right? Yeah, always. It will always fill back up because you're projecting it. And when people are clinging, yeah, when people are clinging to the maps, to the corners, to the buildings, to the things, they literally are quantum entangled with so much anchor, so much lines of anchor, that they can't move the light particles to the next scene as easy. At least, again, because there's a trajectory of, like you were talking earlier about manifestation, where you could have had all those things anchored down, and yet I noticed in my own life I'd be able to easily manifest with the affirmations, the vision boards, etc. Well, then that all stopped as I was, then again, the soul will beckon you, the higher self, etc., it beckons you to the next level of your abilities, and then that required letting go. Like you're one of the best teachers of that. You've shown that for everybody who is around you or who's coming forth. We'll talk about that as well. But as you then get to that next stage of your development of the soul, it will require you to let go. Again, that renunciation of other timelines when we were nuns and priests, or not priests, but monks more so. Anyways, whatever it was, used usually in a religious stance, because again, that was just the way we were. True. Right, but you're pulling it in, right, from the ether. Mhm, mhm. Yeah, it's very exciting. And I was gonna say, you know, what I just referenced where there's more coming, meaning I've noticed that as you go through this journey, you will feel like there's a, even though your family's stuck around, same with mine, they've all evolved with me because, again, as the heart is centered, we are, and we're willing to see everybody else around us evolving. Will too, because they will project what you're wanting to, or what you're allowing yourself to see of them. Anywho's, but what I have noticed is that there's like this building of a bridge. What consciousness talks about is you need to build a rainbow bridge for those others to start to see you on this next plane of existence. Because it'll seem like there's not a lot of people around for a while. I don't know if you had that. Yeah. There it is. Yeah, cool. Absolutely. Yeah. So I was going to share last night's dream with you. Uh, every night I dream who I'm going to see the next day. So last night's dream with you, we were going, we were in this vehicle and we were going down this pathway, and you were like, we drove by all these monarch butterflies, like there was hundreds, and you're like, Elasa, stop the car. And I'm like, okay. And I like go off to the side of the road, and we're running backwards towards this like bridge where all these monarch butterflies were when we drove by. And there was only a couple. And you're like, oh, we missed them. I'm like, it's okay, but look at this and this and this. And so we're looking at all these things, which is what we're doing. So we're going down a trail, like we're talking about our past, or, for me, and we're looking at things. But then all of a sudden, I'm like, Suzette, I can't find my camera or my keys. And so I'm like reaching in this black goo, which is kind of like antimatter, which I have behind me on the scene. And so I'm like reaching into black goo, and I pull the camera out, which we kind of had difficulty getting on the camera this morning, right? This call. Yeah. So that was that scene. It's always, metaphorical, but it's really going to happen. And so we get the camera, right? I had to download the app. And then I'm looking for the keys. And I am like, God, I'm going to have to get all new keys. And found these old references to Solterra, to Soul School, and the keys were lost. They were like asking me to put new passcodes in and all these things to get to gather these reference points. So that kind of speaks to, that was the dream, but that speaks to also what we're talking about with the Rainbow Bridge building. And like you said, sometimes there's no bridge needed because you're really going upwards on the Rainbow Bridge to source, to God, a season of just like receiving on the inner, and then using what you're doing this platform now and on the Ethernet, right? The fifth dimensional net of internet, to go ahead and make these new connections, almost like the Himalayan mountains, which is what I kind of reference when I'm working with people online, or if I dream of people online. It's like we're visiting each other's cave, where we are like in caves, by ourselves doing the work, and it doesn't necessarily look like the cave up in the Himalayan mountains anymore because we've almost disassembled, for some of us, that lower map. And because I believe it is important to realize that maps have been folded in again and again and again, and there's much more territory, when you look at old maps, where you can see like way far out all kinds of other continents and all kinds of other things going on that they don't want you to talk about or look at when you think that location is real. And thankfully science has caught up to know that there is no location. It's just a belief in maps, and it's a belief in a street. Absolutely. Wonderful. Okay, so yeah, we it is my mom, R3miracles. And it's super exciting because my mom and I have done a center before together years ago, and but then I was kind of still in my journey mode and needed to go out west. And my mom has always been one to like know the latest, tool for healing and gadgets. I go to her house and she always has the latest and the greatest. So we actually looked for a bunch of buildings around here, and nothing really seemed to work out because I wasn't back into the system yet. I had pulled myself out of the matrix and went into private, from public to private, and I couldn't seem to be seen by anyone in public commerce. So I'd go to the building to talk to them again, and they wouldn't know who I am, or I couldn't get through to them again. And that's a whole other topic that we're not going to go into right now. But I Yeah, and I hope to talk to people about that if it's necessary. I'm sure it's going to be necessary for a few handful of people. But when I was looking, I finally got a text from the old building that I'm at the old Solterra, the old Bliss, the old Om Sweet Om, all the different names it's been here, Yoga Balance. And they said, "Hey, this building's coming up for rent. Do you want it?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, okay." Right. And Spirit said, "You have so much, so much has been opened there at that Stargate. You need to continue working that gate until it's complete." So what we're doing now, which is is so exciting, is that we have all the quantum healing technologies. We have a plasma light bed from Dan Winters and Paul Harris called Therify that we just got 3 weeks ago. It is amazing. I'm excited to go get on it today, later today. People can come try it out for a session for free. We have zero gravity chairs. We have tensor rings. The walls are painted scalar technology. Um, the place is so yummy. And our goal is to find as many of the best tools, and we have them on our website for getting other centers and people's homes into sanctuary mode, but also for research purposes, for books and papers that will be written from these experiences. And it's just a really exciting time to be sharing that. As I've gotten this set up in a flow, I'm feeling now ready to start working with people with soul sessions and mentoring again. So that's been a while since I've done that, but I'm back online. Yeah, right. What's when it's so easy to hear? Like when we're woken up at 3, do this, get up, and I'm like, all right, yeah, 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 yeah. Well, thank you, Suzette. I just taking the time, so I'm gonna get going. But I love this, and I'm so happy on this next step of your journey, and I'd love to come on down the road. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can check out the books. 123 books were published this past year, so they are up and ready to go on Amazon. Okay, sending you so much love. Thank you, thank you. Okay, bye.